Welcome to the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc, Ernay, and Sean Cassels, coming to you from Radio Waves Studios in New York City. Now, let's kick off the show.
Well, hi again, everybody. I'm Marc Ernay, and this is the Ultra World Podcast, a soccer podcast for soccer fans, and my co-host is Sean Cassels. I am so excited that we are finally kicking this thing off. How are you?
I'm doing great. Welcome, everybody. Very excited to be here and getting this kicked off.
All right, you get most of the credit for the launch of this whole thing because you came up with the idea. Tell me and our audience, please, because I don't know yet, why did you want to do a soccer podcast?
So I got into soccer over the last few years. Everyone watches the World Cup. Everyone knows that. But club soccer is really daunting. Club soccer they got transfer markets. They've got new management. The players change around, all the formations. So it was really daunting to get into. But I also wanted to really get into it and find a team and to find something that I would really follow and chase after. And it feels like it's a little phony if I just am like, I'm going to pick Manchester United or I'm going to pick Liverpool. I wanted to actually feel like I was part of the fan base. As a Yankee fan, when someone says, why are you a Yankee fan? Grew up watching all the games, have been there through a lot of the highs, but also the lows of the 80s. And when someone says, hey, I'll jump in here. I'm actually married to a Red Sox fan, which is really, really interesting there. But to make long story short, I tried to convince her to become a Yankees fan, and she was like, absolutely not. And so I'm kind of putting that forward into soccer here because I don't want to half-ass it. I want to actually go in and enjoy the team. So it started as, hey, auditioning or trying to figure out what the fan base is of each team and where do I fit in? Where's my sports DNA fit into that?
I will just backtrack and say trying to ask a Red Sox fan to be a Yankees fan is the equivalent of asking a Hatfield to be a McCoy or a cat to be a dog.
Absolutely.
No chance.
It did not go over well.
I can't imagine that it would have. How are you still together?
True love. She said absolutely not, and that is not going to be a part of the marriage vows there. So I gave up pretty quick on that.
Interesting. Okay, so you've been drawn to soccer now for the last few years. Have you jumped on any particular team's bandwagon?
So I tried. I tried. There's a team in La Liga called Girona. They had recently been promoted, and I found them excited. I just at the start of the year was like, I'm going to watch one of these games, and they scored a lot. And they actually had some really, really fantastic players. The games would be like 5-2, 4-3. This is 2023 season. And they beat Barcelona. So it was really exciting. I got really into it. Bought the kit. Of course, I lost these really fantastic shorts at the Borgata, but they were, that's another story.
So many people have lost their shorts at casinos over the years, but you literally
lost them there. So I got into the team. They made it to the Champions League. So what I didn't know is that after the season's done, if you're not a club with a lot of money, those players are really good and want money, and they leave. Mm-hmm. And they leave really quickly. And so they left a barren chest of players, and I was like, I'm not in for this. I like that team, and I also love that I believe Game of Thrones was filmed near there. It's like Girona is like a beautiful medieval town, so I enjoyed watching like the Spanish fans walking through the medieval streets before on ESPN Plus. So I got really into it, but when the team completely changed, their best players went out to Roma and they went to Manchester City. I also found out that the owners of Girona were also the owners of Manchester City. And so it just felt kind of dirty. I felt like I was getting secondhand Manchester City fandom, and no offense, I haven't picked another team since then. And this is that kind of journey to find who fits my sports DNA and yours as well.
So you're a fandom free agent right now.
Fandom free agent, completely free across all of European and South American and Asian soccer, completely fandom free.
See, now I started as a fan of the Cosmos back in the heyday. Canalia, Beckenbauer, obviously Pele, and I was a big Shep Messing fan. I fancied myself a future goalie because I had no ball skills whatsoever on the pitch. But it was the Cosmos in the heyday, and they were rock stars. They had a documentary a few years ago which was just off the charts, fantastic. And so I have been following soccer, at least on the periphery, since the Cosmos days at Giant Stadium. And then obviously the Cosmos went away. They're now coming back, which is going to be tremendous. They'll play in USL starting next year. But after the Cosmos, it was the birth of MLS and the New York, New Jersey Metro Stars, who played in my backyard at Giant Stadium. So I felt compelled to be a fan of the Metro Stars. Happened to be at their first win, Savarese scoring a hat trick, if memory serves. Tremendous stuff. I got into it right off the bat and continue to at least be, again, I'm wearing a Red Bull jersey only because I like the way it looks. It's a very cool color scheme. They did a deal with Daniel Patrick, graphic artist, a few years ago. So this is an alternate top from, I think, 2 or 3 years ago. But I've been, paying attention at least to MLS. And even before that, with the Cosmos, started getting into the World Cup. And I go back to a time where the World Cup was not on American TV in English, right? That didn't happen where you could get live English language soccer until the 94 Cup. So before that, I'm watching on Univision, Telemundo, and I remember I would watch these games having no idea. I didn't know Spanish, but I would watch and see when a goal was scored. And then because I had every game videotaped on VHS, I would rewind, and then I would watch the play develop, so I knew that something good had happened. And, of course, now with the prevalent score bugs, I can watch soccer the same way I used to on my DVR, wait on fast forward, wait for the score to change, and then back it up and watch the score play develop. So I don't have to necessarily devote 2 hours a day to watching whatever team it is that I'm interested in. But I've been following, at least on the periphery, and now, of course, with the glut of outlets to watch pretty much any sport you want to. Champions League, we just came off the Club World Cup. You and I started getting into a little bit, and now we've got the MLS season coming up, and obviously the World Cup is coming back to the U.S. next year, and it's just going to be a tremendous thing. And I thought, what better time to get back in the soccer vibe than now? And it's, fortuitous that we basically were brought together by this, the soccer gods, if you will.
I didn't know that about the 94 World Cup being the first, because that was my first foray
Certainly
into
the
soccer.
first one I remember. Now, if 90 or 86 were on English TV, certainly it wasn't covered the way it is now, where every game is broadcast live as it happens. I honestly don't remember seeing any English language live World Cup games before 94. And remember, I go back to a time where even the NBA Finals would be on tape delay when they were carried by CBS back in the day. And that only goes back about 40 years. It was only when Magic and Bird lifted the NBA to the next level that you would get live coverage of the NBA Finals games. So I don't want to age myself, but I did have a black and white TV without a remote control back in the day.
Young sports fans have no idea how lucky they have it today. We'll get on our hill and mountaintop and shake our fists, but it's true. And the '94 World Cup was the first one in America.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I remember that was my first taste of it. That was the Colombia versus U.S. and the U.S. actually beat Colombia because of the famous Escobar own goal, which is its own story. You can go on and watch the 30 for 30 about the two. Is it the two Escobars?
I think so. That's what it was called, yeah.
Fantastic story. Valderrama with his wild, crazy hair. And that U.S. team was rock stars, too. Alexei Lawless, is now a huge announcer. And everyone, love or hate him, he's a big face of the sport. But for me, I actually remember, because I'm Swedish, and Sweden actually made the semis. And so they made the semis. They lost. They were in the bronze game, but it actually got me into it. And I definitely remember sitting in the car listening on the radio to the Italy versus Brazil game with the big upset by Italy because everyone thought Brazil was going to run over them. But yeah, that was it's almost America's big first foray into soccer.
By the way, you noticed I was laughing when you brought up Lawless. So here's how I tie baseball and Boston to soccer. I had gone to Fenway Park, and we parked in one of the auxiliary lots because there's hardly anywhere to park at Fenway Park. And I'm walking across a crowded street against the light, and a car screeches to a halt to my immediate left. It almost hit me, and I look, and who's driving? Alexi Lawless. And I went, oh, my God, I almost got run over by Alexi Lawless. And the friends who were with me like, wait, that's really him. I said, yeah, it's it. Look.
You didn't find your inner New Yorker, inner Boston, and curse at him for almost running you over?
I was very happy that he hit the brakes when he did. Otherwise, I wouldn't be sitting here. But, yeah, that was the first time I ever went to Fenway Park, and I almost didn't live to tell the story that Alexi Lawless would have run me over.
And it wasn't from Boston fans attacking you for having New York. It was Alexi Lawless.
Yeah.
Alexi Lawless in the car. By the parking lot.
Crazy.
You know, and getting that 94 Cup actually got me into it. And it wasn't until the 98 World Cup, which was in France. I actually was in France during that time. And traipsing around initially with my family. We watched, the U.S. did not do very well. I made my family go to the pub to watch it, and we were losing. And there were a few Italians there who found out that we were Americans, and they were making fun of us the whole time. And it was one of the more, I was like, suddenly I had American soccer fandom. I wanted to cloak the flag around me. I was like, wait, you're going to make fun of me here? I'm just supposed to be a fan. But I saw the France versus Italy quarters, where France advanced in penalties, and I was in Aix-en-Provence, and I'd never seen an entire city erupt. Like, you know, everyone was watching the games. The streets were quiet. We were in a little brasserie watching, and when France won, people were dancing in the fountains. They were running around. I was like, I want to be involved with this sport. If people are actually, you know, we see Eagles fans hanging off of lampposts and doing stuff like that, but that's really only the Eagles. There's only a few fans, maybe college basketball fans and college football fans, but it's not very common here in America. And to see the joy in everybody's face, I just wanted to be a part of that celebration. So that made me double down and want to get in a little bit more. But I didn't really dive in until the 22 World Cup. I didn't really say, all right, I'm going to give club soccer a chance, because every time I tried it, I was like, am I gonna watch Premier League? Okay, at least there's English. It's English speaking there. La Liga was fascinating. Real Madrid, Barcelona, their style of play was, the Italian team, Serie A, Bundesliga, and the great Bayern München. But it was hard to watch all the. Now they have them. You have to pay extra. Right. ESPN Plus, Peacock, Paramount. It was so hard to find, and just the fact that it finally was available, all of those games here, was a game changer for me. That I was like, all right, I'm going to go to the pub and watch that. I'll go to my local Union grounds and see if the game is there, if I get kicked out of the house because soccer's on too much. But even then, it took a full year to just understand who the players were and how they all worked together, and how the Champions League worked. So it takes a lot of time and effort. So it's almost like a Cliff Notes we're trying here for people who want to get in soccer, a too long TLDR of soccer fandom for people.
Let's talk a little bit about what this is going to be as we move into what is about to kick off the Premier League season, and obviously with the Premier League, the Champions League, and all of the other leagues around the world. We are going to be, you and I, talking to fans in a whole bunch of different places.
Yes, we're trying to get a really diverse cross-section of fans. So we're literally going to bars, and we are talking to, and we love when we see international fans coming here to New York. Right now we're we're kind of stuck in New York, New Jersey. If we get a chance, we'll try and make our way out to Boston or other places if that's possible. But we at the same time, this is our hometown, so we're going to the local space. We're going to the Turnmill. We're going to the Smithfields. We're trying to find legends. We're trying to go to those early morning Premier League games. We're starting off with. We'll get into the Spanish later, but we're going to first start off with the Premier League and interview the actual fans. And we've gotten some great bites from them, and across all ages. We've got some kids. We've got some parents. We've got some some guys who definitely have had a few and are really hardcore old school West Ham fans. We're talking back to the the old days of the Green Street Hooligans, but we're also trying to get more recognized fans, more, some journalists, fans who have their own podcasts. We're talking to some directors who have directed actually sports features on some of these top players like Ronaldo and Neymar. So we're really trying to make sure that we're not just, we're covering everybody. We really want to hear the voice of the fan because we're learning about it. It's almost like a documentary. We are coming at it from, we don't really know. We want to hear it from you of what makes you a fan. What is the makeup of Everton fans or the makeup of Arsenal fans or the makeup of PSG fans or even the new Campo Basso, which I believe is Kelly Ripa and Marc Consuelos' team. What makes them fans of this team? And hear it from them because we don't want to just make it up. We want to hear it actually from their voice, so it's actually truthful.
It's funny that you mentioned Kelly and Marc because that takes me to the next point that you and I wanted to make sure we touched on today. The glut lately of celebrity owners who are getting into soccer. We just saw over the weekend Novak Djokovic, the tennis Hall of Famer, the legend, buying into a team. We know about what Ryan Reynolds has done with Wrexham, and but that's not the only place it's happening.
They've run
everywhere.
Through that league.
And listen, we have to tip of the cap to Jason Sudeikis because I think the popularity of Ted Lasso has made it such that it's not just soccer fans. We love the ultras. We're looking for the ultras, but it's not just the ultras who will comprise our audience and our interview base.
Yep. Tom Brady, part owner of Birmingham, and they're not going in and buying the top league teams. I like that they're buying lower league teams and putting the money in and getting the fan support and then moving up the ranks. I mean, Tom Brady actually brought former Duke player Jay Heaps, who actually, I'll date myself by saying I actually watched Jay Heaps play at Duke. It was shortly after when he came to play at Duke. People would come and watch those at the stands. They weren't very big stands, but the Duke team was really good. He even made it onto the basketball team. He was so athletic. But he is now Birmingham's president, which is, I'm sure, very odd for the English to be like, okay, we got an American coming in here and being the GM. But yeah, it's becoming a new thing. And I love the fact that it's not like buying an American sport where, hey, I've bought it. No matter what, I'm going to make money. These fans are stuck. If you don't put the money in, you're getting relegated.
Right.
And if you put the time and effort in, you're promoted. So there's actually some consequences. Because Mike Piazza, I don't know if you're the story, he bought a Italian team.
I remember that a few years ago.
Lost tons of money.
Yep.
Tons of money. Poured in money after money, chasing victory. So it doesn't just come. That's what makes Ryan Reynolds and McElhaney so amazing, rising the Wrexham team through the ranks, is it doesn't just come like that. You actually have to really put the team together. You got to put the executives together. It takes a lot of effort to move upwards.
So if you're out there, you're listening to us, or if you're seeing us on the socials, drop a line, say hi. If you want to be part of the show, please just reach out. We'll try and find you, but we can't find everybody who's out there. So if you're interested, if you know somebody who would make a really interesting guest who's got a story to tell, we will absolutely want to hear their stories. And a lot of it's going to be, it's not just you and I talking to each other. It's going to be us talking to those Ultra fans and finding maybe the future Ultra fans.
Exactly. We are opening it up for people to. You can record yourself, record your thoughts, and send it to us. You can write us your thoughts, and we'll read it on the air. We actually would like to hear from you. You can give us those sound bites. We got a very talented team of editors and filmmakers here who can turn that into something to make our podcast include you and your thoughts there.
We want to talk to, obviously we want to hear from the Ultra fans, but we certainly don't want to exclude the casuals.
I would say the casuals are starting honest. We're that toe dip into soccer. Whereas, there are a lot of hardcore soccer podcasts of telling this is what's going on in the game. That's not us. We're not experts in that. And we want to be I don't want to use the word safe place, but a place for someone who doesn't really know soccer would find it interesting and would want to listen. So,
well, we're billing this as the soccer fans' voice from the stands. So we're going to talk to as many soccer fans, hopefully super fans. Those are the Ultras after all, but those are the ones that we're targeting. We had the great good fortune over the last couple of weeks with the Club World Cup and then the Premier League Summer Series in the area at Giants. I keep calling it Giant Stadium, at MetLife Stadium. Everton was here, West Ham was here, Manchester United was here, and Bournemouth was here. So they had the doubleheader a couple of Saturdays ago. They did a fan fest of sorts at the American Dream Mall, which was a tremendous setup. And you and I have started to infiltrate some of the team fan groups on social media, on Facebook, on Reddit, and wherever else we can find them. And so we had the opportunity to talk to a whole bunch of these ultra fans of some of these. Now, Everton did not do so well. I felt kind of bad for them because they had a rough go in these 3 games that they played at MetLife and in Chicago and in Atlanta. They finally drew on Sunday in Atlanta against Manchester United. But you know what? I found this to be, you talked about being a Yankees fan and marrying a Red Sox fan. I've been a Mets fan since 1973. I jumped on the bandwagon at the perfect time because they were headed for the World Series, and I just remember the heartbreak of losing Game 7 to the Oakland A's that year, and why Tom Seaver didn't pitch when he was supposed to pitch, and the decisions that Yogi Berra made that fall that continue to haunt Mets fans 50 some odd years later. That maybe that should have been their second World Series championship, and it shouldn't have had to wait till '86. Different story for another day, but talking to these Ultra fans, the Evertonians, the Toffees, who are so embedded into the culture of this team, and even though there's not a high expectation, where do you think the team's going to finish this year? And I'm thinking, we're going to win the whole thing, or we'll finish second, or, at the very least, Champions League top 4. No, I think we'll be okay in 6th. To me, if you
10.
Tell a Mets fan, I think we'll be okay if we finish 3rd in the National League East, you're going to have your head.
You do that with the Yankees or the Red Sox. I mean, the Yankees fans are frothing at the mouth right now that we're in 3rd. So,
right.
It was really nice talking to all of them, but I was surprised at how many actually traveled from Liverpool to come and watch the game. These are just preseason games. You can't get people to buy preseason NFL tickets.
I couldn't give mine away for the last 4 years.
the PL prices.
Literally couldn't give them away.
And they were traveling here, and yes, they were coming to watch to see New York City, but they were excited about seeing their team, and there was a lot of passion there. And the West Ham fans too. We didn't get a chance to read. It was funny. There were Manchester United fans at both the West Ham and the Everton event who were married to or with in a significant way with one of the other. Why did you come out to New York City this weekend?
Mainly for the game, but we come to New York most years for our vacations, so we were planning to come later in the summer. And then when the game was announced, we thought, well, we can't come later, and then realised that Everton were here 2 weeks ago, so we just shifted everything forward. Caden loves New York, so it's his favourite place on earth. We've come out the last 4 years, run sort of straight. And so Everton in New York is just the ultimate for him, so he gets to do both.
So how do you guys deal with being big fans of a different team?
It's not that much of a problem because historically there's never really been much of a problem between Everton and Manchester United fans. I think, ish. But they don't really bother us because they're no big deal, so that's no problem. Your dad always says, doesn't he, go on,
Yeah, when I introduced Rob to my parents, the first question he said is, who did he support? And when we said Everton, he said he breathed a sigh of relief because he wasn't a Liverpool fan.
The lesser of two evils, so as long as it wasn't Liverpool, it's fine. So I could not have married a Liverpool supporter. So
love can't transcend that.
No. That just couldn't happen. So.
I wouldn't have let you.
Well, I think it's great that you asked that because although I'm here at a West Ham United function, event, if you will, I'm actually Manchester United. And we play each other tomorrow. But my husband inside, he is actually a West Ham fan. And there is where I wanted to bring up the point that the beautiful game is a community.
And last question I've got here: How does rooting for different teams affect your guys' relationship?
Oh well, sometimes we.
Well, we beat them twice last season.
You know, you don't have to bring that up. Sometimes we just don't get it right.
It hasn't. No,
Yeah.
We've got our own little memorabilia on our staircase. A friend of ours, Jake, painted Georgie Best, painted Trevor Brooking. We share the space.
We do. We do.
We've got our
Sometimes-
memorabilia.
I would like to make a joke that we sometimes don't share a bed when one of us wins, but that's actually not true.
It was very interesting to hear that there. But you also, with the FIFA World Cup here, Club Cup, we were trying to figure out, we thought it was going to be very European-centric, and you dove in and met some Brazilian fans there.
I got very lucky because I headed over to Legends on 33rd Street because they are one of the premier soccer bars, if you will, and it's generally a Chelsea hangout. So I figured, hey, let's go find some Chelsea fans the day they're playing, but it had been taken over by Fluminense fans for the entire tournament, and it was the day before Fluminense was playing at MetLife, and they had packed the joint from pillar to post, even outside, which I thought was unbelievable.
But they came to play. They not only did the team come to play, but the fans showed up. They were talking about how the FIFA Club Cup was having terrible sales, that no one was going to come. Only Real Madrid and PSG are sold out. You know, there's no Barcelona. There's no. I believe Liverpool was not included.
Right.
So there was a lot of dour talk, and some of the tickets were going for as $20. But the Fluminense games, the Botafogo games, they were sold out. They came here, and I love seeing people dancing in the stands. I love seeing drums being played. I love that there is no crowd noise needed to be pumped in. You know, there's no Cotton Eye Joe. There's no clap your hands.
Right.
Because while I love American sports, it's really grating sometimes to just be bombarded with jingles. And the walla of the crowd in these sporting events and these soccer events it's fun. It's fun. It's like going to a concert.
I love it because it's so organic. You know, it's contrived to me a little too much with the American stuff. And, I've been covering professional sporting events in and around the New York City area and across the country my entire professional career, which goes 30 plus years now. But when you're piping in special effects and you're piping in crowd noise at some of the NBA games around here every once in a while, and every pitch is just a wall of sound. Great for Phil Spector, because he probably still makes a ton of money off of it, but it's just too much.
I don't need to hear defense anymore. The defense song is when the Knicks are going back on defense, with the clap.
No, and I don't mind when it's organic and it's fan-generated, but when you've even got the PA announcers now who are shouting, let's get into it, defense. I'm like, I don't need that. I'm a fan. And I don't say I'm the most sophisticated fan on the planet, but I know enough to know when to cheer.
Exactly.
And to know when to boo the opposition. And, booing the opposition is certainly a lot different than we see in some of the extreme instances.
But, I love that each of these teams also has their own songs, even if they're, hey, listen, it's Oasis, it's a Neil Diamond song. The one of the things I love about the end of Yankees games is you're playing dun dun dun,
Right.
and you're spreading the news. The Red Sox have Sweet Caroline
And Dirty Water.
So but they sing it organically. It is not even prompted by anyone upstairs at the
Right.
keyboard. They just start singing, and they'll even make up their own songs. I mentioned briefly I went to Duke way back when, and I got the pleasure of going to games at Cameron, and you did not sit. If you were a student, you were lucky enough to get in. You have to stand the whole game. You cheer, even if we're losing, if we're down by 20, even if we're up by 20. You have to give it your all. You have to be sweating just as much as the players are. I would come out of there, and I would just be buckets of sweat coming down on me. And there was not a single bit of crowd noise pumped in. All of that noise is from the students, undergrad and grads, going nuts. And then I would go to games, I would go to New York to see the games and they'd be pumping in crowd noise. And I'd be like, why do they not let the fans show their fandom? Why do you need to contrive and say this is when to clap, this is when to cheer? I get annoyed by that. You're taking the narrative away from the fans. There is something about the crowd getting silent when they're choking. There's
Right.
there's a very real feeling where you can hear a pin drop in the stadium when you're like, oh my God, we're down to our last strike, or there's only a minute left, or we're in stoppage time. And everyone is deathly silent because they're like, here we go again. This is where we always fall apart.
And it's not even in the stadium sometimes or the arenas. I remember being out at a sports bar to watch Game 6 of the 2001 World Series, and the Yankees blew away the Diamondbacks that night. Lopsided score. So they go to Game 7, and we went back to the same place the next night. And out of deference or respect to my friends who were Yankee fans, I wore a Yankee cap, and they were not particularly thrilled. As the game ended, remember, Alfonso Soriano hits the home run in the ninth inning. The Yankees have the lead. Mariano Rivera comes in and then throws a ball into center field, and they wind up losing. As loud as it was when Soriano hit the home run to put them in front of Game 7, that's how quiet it got when the Yankees lost. Luis Gonzalez had the winning. I think it was Gonzalez.
Don't remind me. It's still painful.
If he scored Craig Counsell, maybe. I think that was the scenario. But as loud as it was when the Yankees took the lead, that's how quiet it was in this place when the game ended, and they had lost Game 7 in a walk-off. And I remember it felt like it was about 5 minutes of dead silence, but it might have been 45 seconds. And that was a Sunday night, and the Jets were playing Sunday Night Football. And I remember out of the silence, the funereal silence, you hear, "Put the Jet game on!" And it broke everything. It broke the silence. It broke the tension. You could hear the sobbing and it was very uncomfortable as a non-Yankee fan sitting amongst Yankees fans who just had their hearts ripped out. But it was just so funny to hear that, "Put the Jets game on." And that's how you knew the world was going to be okay again.
That's what I love of being at a bar when they're pumping in this. I always want the game sound and the announcer pumped in.
Right.
So many bars and pubs will be like, we're just going to have our electronica music or our background music. And yes, you see it there, but being able to actually hear the game is so important, especially because it's not just the announcers having the flow, but in soccer, you really can hear if they're doing a good job with the audio at the stadium on the telecast. You're going to hear that crowd going crazy, and you're also going to hear that our butt cheeks are clenching at this moment, and we are deathly silent because we know that this is where the other team is going to score in the final stoppage.
And the funny thing is, I remember we were watching. I went out to lunch with a bunch of softball teammates. We played softball in Central Park on Mondays for years. The league's still going, but it was during the World Cup in probably 14. And we went to a place off of Central Park West, and we're sitting. And I remember I had my back. We were corner table. We had probably 10 of us, and there was a bar. And unbeknownst to me, because my back was to the bar, a stream of fans had come in to watch the World Cup game. And all of a sudden, I hear they start singing the national anthem. what is going on with the national? And I realized they're singing the national anthem because it's right before kickoff. Okay.
Amazing.
This is Central Park. It was incredible.
Amazing.
And I remember I was actually downtown, my wife and I, in 2010. We're down in the Village. It was before we got married, so we were on a cupcake taste test tour during the final. And we happened to be in Little Italy, 2010. And eruption. It was like San Gennaro come 2 months early. It was tremendous. And I had been, it's funny, I was when I was a kid, I had been in Europe for the 82 Cup. Didn't get to go to any of the games in Spain, but I was on the continent when the tournament ended. And I remember the reaction to, again, Italy winning. And it was just tremendous stuff. And I was once upon a time, it must have been 2006. I was at the final. Of course, that was the headbutt, the Zidane final.
Oh, yeah.
06, right?
That was South Africa?
Was it 06?
I think it was 06.
Yeah, so the Zidane headbutt final, I'm watching on a little portable TV from Citizens Bank Park because my niece, who was 6 years old at the time, decided that she had to take me to a Phillies game for my 40th birthday.
On that day.
And it's the day of the final, but okay. And I'm hanging out with her and my brother, and I'm watching the World Cup final on a portable TV. And I see Zidane with the headbutt. And these indelible memories.
Yeah.
You know, it's
iconic
funny.
Moment.
I've gone to, I can't even tell you how many hundreds, close to 1,000 games over the course of my life. But there are those few, you know, here I am at a baseball game, but I remember what happened in the World Cup final because I was watching it on a portable TV. Who does that?
But that's how iconic the World Cup games are.
Yeah.
I mean, just this past the 22 game, the semis with Netherlands and Argentina, and one of the Argentine players got upset at the Netherlands bench and launched a ball at them, and everyone's like, he's getting out with a red card. And just seeing the anger and the frustration in the fans in the stadium and the players, like they really bring it. These players in every single one of these championship games, in every single one, honestly, even in just a regular Premier League game, they all count. They all matter. There's only 20 of them, right? No, there's usually 38 games a season, and that counts at all. So unlike baseball that has 186 now, or
162.
162, and
it feels like 100.
It feels like 100. It's so long, and now there's so many wild card teams, so it takes away from just the two make it at the end. Same with basketball. There we have an 80 game now, or is it 82?
Yeah, 82.
And
hockey's
NFL,
going to 84.
It just takes
NFL's
away from
expanded to 17. It'll eventually be 18.
Yep. And part of the also interest is that there's not just a league championship. Each country has its own cup too,
right? And
they take it from the top down, the lowest of the low teams, because there's different divisions. Like it's more like baseball here in America, where you have A ball, AA, AAA, and then the majors. They have many different levels to get to be relegated or promoted from, and even those smaller teams get a chance to take on the Barcelonas, the Real Madrids, the Liverpools, and try and make it to the FA Cup or the Copa d'Italia or the Spanish Cup. So they get a chance at two different pieces of hardware on top of the Champions League. So I love that too. The NBA kind of stole that. They're trying to do that. It has not really hit, but a championship's a championship.
Hey, listen, a trophy is a trophy is a trophy. I won... So this is really funny. So I've been playing tennis for most of my life, and I joined a league, a spring and summer league. They would split it up into two halves. So you'd start in March, and you'd go March to August, and then August to November. And I won my flight one year. So, okay, the pro says, come by next week. You can pick up your trophy. Now, I'm expecting this is going to be like a little tabletop size, a little nothing. So I park the car. This is Vanson Park in Paramus, where there's a children's zoo. So I park over by the zoo, and I walk through the lot, and I go over to the tennis center. And the pro at the time, Ron, knock on the window because he's sleeping most of the time when there's nothing going on. Hey, Ron, I'm here for my trophy. Hang on a second. And he meets me out the side door with what's the size of a coat rack. What am I supposed? I thought it was a gag. What am I supposed to do with
I
this?
prominently placed that.
He says, "This is your trophy." I said, "You have to be." And sure enough, it's engraved. It's got my name on it. 3-0 champion, summer, whatever it was, year. Like now, I have to walk back through the zoo parking lot with this giant thing, and it's not like I can hide it under my shirt.
But everyone's going to go, that's a champion
It's
right there.
gigantic. And I literally put it like in the middle of my coffee table at home because I wanted people when they walked in to see. I said I expected it would be about a third of the size, and it's this giant thing. It was literally size of a coat rack.
Did you adjust the lighting in your
But
house?
a
so that
trophy
it would
is
be
a
on there?
trophy.
Yeah,
My
trophy.
point is, trophy's a trophy.
It is. I mean, I even celebrate fantasy league football championships. I am that small-minded and that petty that hey, listen, I won a fantasy football league championship in 2022, and I'm still sticking to it.
There you go. Once a champion, always a champion. as they say.
Exactly.
If you want to just rant on tape or whatever,
We love audio.
into your voice recorder on your phone, it'll be awesome. If you want to write us a letter, that's okay too. We'll take the missive. We can do interpretive readings.
Yes, we can.
I've always wanted to do a cartoon voiceover thing anyway, so this will be a good foray into that.
We'll find what we think your voice is, and make
I will
sure we're
not
playing
try
with us.
any accents, though. I promise.
No
I'll read it
accents.
as myself, but maybe I'll put a little flair on it.
Little inflection in there to
Yeah,
show
absolutely.
when something's important, when's not. And also video. We will take video. We ask that you keep it clean.
Please.
Try and keep it there and respectful of other teams. We're a positive podcast
Right.
here.
We want to know why you love your team, not necessarily why you hate the other team.
Perfectly put.
Thank you. So, Sean Cassels, Marc Ernay, thank you so much for joining us as we kick off the Ultra World podcast. We'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening.
This has been the Ultra World Podcast, the soccer fan's voice from the stands, with your hosts, Marc Ernay and Sean Cassels. Our executive producer is Sue Zizza. Marc Ernay and Sean Cassels are co-producers. David Shin is our master engineer. Assistant producer Avery Gehrig, and I'm Alicia Antwine. To be a guest on the Ultra World Podcast or learn all about sponsorship opportunities, send an email to ultraworldpod@gmail.com. Be sure to follow the show on all the social media platforms at Ultra World Pod. Copyright 2025. All rights reserved. Ultra World Podcast, LLC.